Hi there. I'm a woman who, after going through a lot, can finally say that life has become a bit more enjoyable. I've never shared my story like this before, but I felt it was time to send it in, especially because I owe a lot of comfort to a dear friend, whom I'll just call Alex, for being a constant source of support. So I hope you enjoy the story with a light heart and maybe even smile along the way. All right, let me get to it. I got married when I was 40, after 3 years of dating. By the time he proposed, I was confident that I could spend my whole life with him. So I said yes, and I became a wife. Honestly, marriage had always seemed like something that happened in TV dramas or to other people. But suddenly there I was, in a wedding dress, holding my husband's hand, feeling the love and joy of those around me. The next thing I knew, I was waking up every morning next to him, and it felt like the most amazing thing. I could hear his breathing beside me, and that was how I started my day. It was the best thing ever. I'll admit it, I had a thing for my husband's looks. The more I saw him, the more I thought he was perfect. It wasn't just about physical attraction, it was how he made me feel. Every time I looked at him, I couldn't help but smile. But when I hit my mid-40s, things started to change. It started with him losing his job, then his business failed miserably. When things began to go south, he turned to alcohol. What started as a drink here and there soon became a daily habit. When he came home, he reeked of it, and it felt like I was getting drunk just sitting next to him. "You've been drinking again," I'd say. "This is getting out of hand. We need to go to a doctor tomorrow." He'd dismiss it, saying, "I'm not an alcoholic. I'm just having a drink to get through the day. Why make a big deal out of it?" But it was more than just one drink. He was clearly struggling, and I could see it eating away at him. He'd lost his business, and I was the one who had to pick up the pieces. Yet, he didn't seem to care. Things got worse. Not only was he drinking, but he also got involved in online gambling and racked up a massive debt. When I found out, I was numb. It wasn't just disappointment or anger. It was more like everything in me just shut down. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part came when I found out that he was having an affair. At first, I couldn't believe it. I was in shock. We'd already lost everything, our trust, our future. I couldn't understand how, at a time like this, he could be seeing someone else. But when I found out, it was worse than I could have imagined. He was seeing an older woman with money. She didn't complain, didn't lecture him, and just accepted him the way he was. She was the opposite of me, and he seemed to find comfort in that. That was it. I couldn't take it anymore. I filed for divorce and returned to life as a single woman. I swore I would never get married again. Before marriage, everyone seems perfect, right? But once you're in it, the reality can be so different. I decided that I would never let myself fall into that trap again. No more marriage for me. But love didn't stop for me. I kept dating and even started having fun again. I realized that to feel young, love is necessary. So, while working and keeping busy, I kept my romantic life going, but now with a bit more caution. As I hit my mid-40s, I began noticing changes. My face wasn't as smooth as it once was, and I could feel the years catching up with me. Wrinkles started to deepen, and my body wasn't as firm as it used to be. I tried to fight it by running on the treadmill and watching my diet, but the signs of aging were undeniable. That's when I met someone new, a man who, to my surprise, didn't seem bothered by the little changes I was going through. In fact, he thought I was adorable, and not in an insincere way either. He'd call me baby and laugh about how cute my little belly was getting. "You're so cute," he'd say. "You have this soft, round belly now. It's adorable." At first, I was a little sensitive about it. I would try to work out and lose some weight, but the more I tried, the harder it became. But he kept reassuring me, "You're beautiful just the way you are." The funny thing was, the more time we spent together, the more I realized I was starting to feel young again. He was so affectionate and caring, always telling me how amazing I was, how smart and beautiful I looked. He made me feel like I was still in my 20s, and that made me smile every day. Our relationship was great, but there was one thing that kept coming up. He kept talking about marriage, and I kept pushing it away. I'd already been through a marriage, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to dive into that again. "Why get married?" I'd say. "I'm happy just the way things are." But he didn't give up. He kept proposing, jokingly at first, but then more seriously. "How about we get married? What do you think?" he would ask. And every time I'd laugh and tell him no. I just didn't believe in marriage anymore. Then one day I found myself in a strange position. I was feeling the pressure of his proposals, and I started to second-guess myself. Maybe he was right. Maybe this was the right person for me. After all, I had been through a lot, and it would be nice to settle down with someone who loved me so much. One day, after a romantic dinner, he asked me again, "So what do you think? Let's get married. I want to spend my life with you." This time, instead of brushing it off, I thought about it long and hard. We had been together for a while, and our connection felt deep. I wasn't getting any younger, and maybe it was time for me to give marriage another shot. "I'll think about it," I told him, "but no promises. I don't want to rush into anything." We continued dating, but this time, I started to see things differently. I noticed the little things, how he took care of me when I was sick, how he always made sure I felt appreciated, and how much fun we had together. Maybe marriage wasn't such a bad idea after all. And then, out of the blue, my past came back to haunt me. My ex-husband, the one who had cheated on me and ruined our marriage, contacted me. At first, I didn't want to engage, but curiosity got the best of me. He had a lot to say, and I didn't know if I was ready to hear it. "Can we talk?" he texted. "I know things ended badly, but I need to explain myself." I was hesitant, but something in me said it was time to hear him out. Maybe, just maybe, it would give me some closure. So I agreed to meet him for coffee. When we sat down, he looked different. He seemed calmer, older, and more mature. He apologized for everything, the affair, the gambling, the lies. "I messed up, and I regret it," he said. "But I need you to know that I've changed. I've been through a lot, and I realize now what I lost." I wasn't sure how to respond. Part of me wanted to tell him to leave me alone, to walk away and never look back. But another part of me, the part that had been hurt so deeply, wanted to hear what he had to say. "I don't know if I can forgive you," I said, "but I'm listening." We talked for a while, but the conversation left me with mixed feelings. It was clear that he wanted to get back together, but I wasn't sure if that was what I wanted. He had hurt me so badly, and the thought of reopening that wound seemed impossible. Over the next few days, I thought about our conversation a lot. My heart was torn. On the one hand, I had a great man by my side, someone who truly cared for me. On the other hand, my ex-husband's words kept ringing in my ears. He had changed, or so he said, but could I trust him again? Eventually, I decided that I couldn't go back. What had happened between us was in the past, and I had moved on. I wasn't going to let his mistakes define my future. So, I put the past behind me and focused on the present. I began to realize that I had to stop letting the past hold me back. I had a new chance at love, at happiness, and I wasn't going to let anything or anyone take that away from me. My decision to move on from my ex-husband was liberating. It was like a weight had been lifted from my shoulders, and I could finally look forward without being dragged back into the past. It was time to embrace the relationship I had now. This man, Sam, had shown me kindness, patience, and love. He was everything I hadn't realized I needed, and I wasn't going to let that slip away. One evening, Sam and I sat on the couch, a movie playing in the background. He turned to me, a playful smile on his face. "Hey, you know what I was thinking?" "What?" I asked, barely paying attention to the film at that point. "Maybe we could plan a weekend getaway. Just the two of us. No work, no responsibilities. What do you think?" I liked the sound of that. A break from the usual routine seemed perfect, and the idea of spending uninterrupted time together felt right. We quickly made plans to drive out to a little cabin by the lake, somewhere quiet and scenic where we could relax and enjoy each other's company. When the weekend arrived, the weather was perfect, sunny and warm, but not too hot. We packed our bags, filled the car with snacks and drinks, and set off. The drive itself was pleasant, filled with laughter and conversations that seemed to flow effortlessly. By the time we reached the cabin, I was already feeling the stress of daily life melting away. The cabin was cozy, nestled among tall trees with a clear view of the shimmering lake. As we settled in, Sam started a small fire outside, and we sat together, watching the sun dip below the horizon. It was the kind of peaceful moment I hadn't experienced in years, and it made me grateful to have him in my life. Over the weekend, we took long walks along the water, shared stories we hadn't told each other before, and just enjoyed the simplicity of being together. Sam would tease me about my overpacked suitcase, and I'd joke about his inability to start a fire without resorting to a lighter. It was lighthearted and fun, and I felt more like myself than I had in a long time. One night, as we sat by the fire again, Sam turned to me and said, "You know, being with you is the best decision I've ever made." I smiled and nudged him. "You're just saying that because I packed all the snacks." "No," he said, his voice softer now. "I mean it. I don't know how I got so lucky to meet you. You make me happy. You make me want to be better." I wasn't used to hearing things like that. It caught me off guard, but in the best way possible. "Well," I replied, "maybe I'm the lucky one." From that moment on, I started to think about our future more seriously. I began to imagine what it might be like to spend my life with someone like Sam, someone who truly cared about me, who saw me for who I was, and who never tried to change me. The thought was both comforting and exciting, and for the first time in years, I felt hopeful about what lay ahead. When the weekend was over, we drove back feeling closer than ever. The time away had strengthened our bond, and I could see that Sam was just as committed to building a life together as I was starting to be. He didn't pressure me to give an answer about marriage right away, but I could tell he was hoping for one. Back home, life returned to its normal rhythm, but now it felt different. Every morning when I woke up, I felt a sense of contentment. I wasn't just going through the motions, I was living, and I was happy. Sam and I began talking more seriously about our plans. We looked at apartments, talked about combining our finances, and even discussed what it might be like to adopt a pet. These weren't conversations I had expected to have again, but I was glad they were happening. With each step, I felt more secure in our relationship. Then, one evening over dinner, Sam reached across the table and took my hand. "So, have you thought any more about us? About what we talked about at the cabin?" I knew what he meant, and this time I didn't hesitate. "Yes," I said. "I think we're ready." His face lit up. "Are you sure?" I smiled. "I'm sure." Sam didn't need to ask twice. Within a week, we were officially engaged, and the excitement of planning a future together took over. I couldn't believe it. I had sworn off marriage, yet here I was, looking forward to a second chance. It felt different this time. I wasn't scared or uncertain. I was ready. As we started to tell our family and friends, their reactions were overwhelmingly positive. People who had seen me at my lowest were thrilled to see me happy again. It was a reminder that sometimes life gives you unexpected opportunities, and if you're willing to take them, you can find joy where you least expect it. As the wedding date approached, I felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. This time around, I wanted to do things differently, more intimate, less about impressing everyone else, and more about what truly mattered, starting a new chapter with Sam. We opted for a small ceremony, just close friends and family, and decided to host it in the backyard of a friend's house, which had the most beautiful garden. Leading up to the big day, Sam was an absolute gem. He handled the logistics, helped choose the decorations, and even suggested a few creative touches that I hadn't thought of. For example, he wanted each guest to receive a handwritten note from us, thanking them for being part of our lives. I loved the idea, and we spent a couple of evenings writing those notes together, laughing and reminiscing about the people who meant so much to us. The day of the wedding came, and it was everything I'd hoped for. The garden was bursting with blooms, the weather was perfect, and everyone there seemed genuinely happy for us. I walked down the aisle feeling a sense of calm I hadn't experienced before. When I reached Sam, he took my hands and whispered, "You look amazing." The ceremony was simple and heartfelt. Our vows were personal, full of little inside jokes and promises that only we would understand. There was no grand fanfare, no lavish displays, just two people pledging to take on the future together. By the time we said "I do," I felt a wave of happiness wash over me. It was real, it was honest, and it was perfect. After the ceremony, we had a casual reception with great food, good music, and plenty of laughter. People kept coming up to us saying how much they loved the relaxed atmosphere. Some even joked that it felt more like a fun summer party than a traditional wedding, which was exactly what we'd wanted. I remember looking around at one point, seeing Sam chatting with friends, and thinking to myself, I made the right choice. Our honeymoon wasn't extravagant, but it was everything I could have asked for. We rented a small beach cottage and spent a week lounging in the sun, exploring nearby trails, and cooking meals together. We were so in sync, so comfortable with each other. It felt like we'd been married for years in the best possible way. Once we returned home, life settled into a new kind of routine. We didn't rush into big changes, but instead focused on enjoying the little moments. Sunday mornings became our time to make pancakes together, listening to music and singing off-key. Evenings were spent on the couch, watching our favorite shows or reading side by side. It was the kind of life I had always hoped for. Simple, fulfilling, and full of love. A few months after the wedding, Sam brought up something we'd discussed before, but hadn't made any firm decisions about. Hey, what do you think about adopting a dog? I'd always loved the idea of having a pet, but I wanted to make sure we were truly ready. Do you think we have the time and energy for it? He grinned. We've got more than enough love to give, and I think a dog would make our little family complete. We started visiting local shelters and soon fell in love with a sweet, energetic mutt we named Max. Max quickly became the center of our home. He brought so much joy and energy into our lives, and in a way, he made us even closer. Taking Max for walks turned into an excuse to spend more time outdoors together, and training him taught us patience and teamwork. With Max as part of our family, our house started to feel even more like a home. We began hosting small dinner parties for friends, something I never would have considered before. I enjoyed cooking meals and setting a cozy atmosphere, and Sam loved entertaining and making our guests laugh. Our home became a place where people felt welcome, and I felt proud of the life we were building together. Over time, I realized how much I had changed. The woman who had once sworn off marriage and shut herself off from the possibility of love was now someone who couldn't imagine life without this new family. I had opened my heart again, and it had paid off in ways I never thought possible. Sam and I faced our share of challenges, of course. Life isn't always smooth sailing, and we had disagreements like any couple. But what made this relationship different was our commitment to talking things out, to really understanding each other's perspectives. Even when things got tough, I never doubted that Sam was on my side. He had this way of calming me down, of reminding me that we were a team and that we could get through anything together. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching Max play in the yard, Sam turned to me and said, I never imagined life could be this good. Me neither, I replied, but I'm glad we took a chance on each other. He smiled and reached for my hand. I don't know what I did to deserve you, but I'm never letting you go. I laughed. You're stuck with me now. Looking back, I'm grateful for the journey that brought me here. It wasn't easy, and there were times when I thought happiness wasn't in the cards for me. But life has a funny way of surprising you. If you're willing to take a leap of faith, to let yourself be vulnerable again, you might just find something incredible waiting for you. As I sit here, reflecting on everything we've been through, I feel nothing but gratitude. I'm thankful for the lessons I've learned, the people who have supported me, and the man who showed me that love can be simple, kind, and strong. This is the life I never knew I wanted, and now that I have it, I'll never take it for granted. Months turned into years, and the life Sam and I built together continued to grow stronger. With every passing season, I learned more about what it meant to be part of a real partnership, one where love and respect were at the center of everything we did. It wasn't always glamorous or perfect, but it was ours, and that made it priceless. Over time, we took on new challenges and made new memories. Sam got a promotion at work, which was exciting but also brought more responsibility. I was proud of him, though I sometimes worried that he was taking on too much. But Sam had a way of balancing everything. He'd come home after a long day, kiss my forehead, and say, "As long as I have you, I'm good." We found joy in the little things, walking Max through the neighborhood, trying out new recipes, or just spending a quiet evening on the couch. Life felt steady and fulfilling, and I found myself thinking less about the past and more about what lay ahead. I finally felt free from the shadows of my old life. One day, we got an unexpected visit. My younger cousin, Olivia, showed up at our doorstep, suitcase in hand and tears in her eyes. She had just gone through a rough breakup and didn't have anywhere else to turn. Sam and I welcomed her in without a second thought. Olivia ended up staying with us for a while, and her presence brought a new dynamic to our household. At first, it was a bit chaotic. She was emotional, unsure of her next steps, and struggling to get back on her feet. But gradually, she began to find her balance, thanks to Sam's easygoing nature and the stability our home offered. She often joked that Max was her therapy dog, and seeing her smile again reminded me of how far I'd come in creating a home that could be a source of comfort and safety for someone else. As Olivia found her footing, I noticed a shift in myself as well. I had spent so much of my life focused on getting through my own struggles that I hadn't realized how much joy there could be in helping someone else. It felt good to be the person who could provide comfort, to know that our home had become a place where someone could heal and move forward. During her time with us, Olivia often asked me questions about how I managed to rebuild my life after everything I'd been through. I found myself telling her stories about Sam, how he'd been patient with me, how he never gave up on our relationship, even when I wasn't sure if I wanted to commit. Olivia said it gave her hope, and I could see her start to believe that better days were ahead. When Olivia eventually moved out, she left behind a note thanking us for everything. "You gave me a safe place to land," she wrote. "And seeing the two of you together reminded me that love doesn't have to hurt. It can be kind and steady. I'll never forget that." It was a small moment, but it meant so much to me. It reinforced the fact that love, and the life we build with it, has the power to not only heal ourselves, but also the people around us. It wasn't just about what I had gained, it was about what I could now give. As the years went by, Sam and I faced other challenges, family issues, unexpected expenses, and health scares. But through it all, we leaned on each other. He was my rock, and I was his. When my mom fell ill and needed extra care, Sam didn't hesitate to step in. He'd drive me to her appointments, cook meals for us to take to her, and sit with her for hours just so she wouldn't feel alone. I knew then, more than ever, that I had made the right choice. This was the kind of love I had hoped for, the kind of partnership I never thought I'd find. It wasn't about grand gestures or sweeping declarations. It was about the day-to-day acts of kindness, the quiet support, and the unspoken understanding that we were in this together. Eventually, we decided to move to a quieter area, a little farther from the city. It was a chance to slow down and enjoy the fruits of our years of hard work. We found a charming house on the outskirts of town, with a big yard for Max to run around in, and a front porch perfect for morning coffee. Settling into this new home felt like the start of yet another chapter in our story. Sam took up gardening, which I never would have guessed he'd enjoy so much. He spent hours outside, planting flowers and tending to vegetables, while I tried my hand at baking. Our weekends were filled with simple pleasures, farmers markets, afternoon hikes, and evenings by the fire pit. It wasn't the life I had imagined when I was younger, but it was the life I now realized I had always wanted. One night, as we sat on the porch watching the fireflies, Sam looked over at me and said, "I can't believe how lucky I am. I don't need anything else. This is it. This is home." I smiled, taking his hand. "Me too," I said. "This is exactly where I want to be." As the years passed, I came to realize just how far I'd come since those difficult days when I first thought I'd never find love again. Looking back, the life Sam and I built was more than just a fresh start. It was proof that sometimes life's second chances can be even better than you imagined. I never expected to feel this kind of peace, to have a home filled with laughter, and to know deep down that I was loved for exactly who I was. We never had children of our own, but Max, our dog, became a central figure in our little family. His boundless energy and unconditional affection brought so much joy into our lives. And in many ways, Max taught us what it meant to care for something together, to nurture, to be patient, and to always come home to love. Even as time took its natural course and the rhythms of our daily lives became quieter, Sam and I stayed connected. He always had a way of making me laugh, even on the dullest of days. Whether it was a silly joke while we made breakfast or his habit of dancing around the living room when a song he liked came on, he reminded me that joy could be found in the smallest moments. In the evenings, we'd sit on our porch and watch the sunset. Sometimes we talked about nothing in particular. Other times we'd reminisce about the adventures we'd had or the challenges we'd overcome. Those quiet moments together were my favorite, just being by his side, sharing the stillness, knowing that we didn't need to say much to understand each other. As we got older, our pace slowed, but our bond only deepened. When one of us was under the weather, the other would step in to help. We leaned on each other in a way that felt effortless, natural. It was as if, after all the twists and turns of life, we'd finally found the place where we belonged. One day, after a long afternoon in the garden, Sam came inside, his hands dirty and his face slightly sunburned. "You know," he said, leaning on the kitchen counter, "I think this is the happiest I've ever been." I looked up from the pie I was baking, smiling. "Even happier than the day we adopted Max?" "Even happier," he said, grinning, "because I know every day I wake up, I get to spend it with you." I laughed. "Well, aren't you sweet? Must be the sun talking." "No, it's just the truth," he replied, his voice sincere. "You're my home." It's funny how simple words can have such a profound effect. I felt my heart swell, and I realized I felt the same way. Sam wasn't just the man I married. He was my best friend, my partner in everything, and the reason I had come to believe in love again. As the years rolled by, we took comfort in the routines we'd created. Saturday mornings meant pancakes and coffee. Sunday afternoons were reserved for long walks. And every evening, no matter how the day had gone, we'd sit on the couch together, share a blanket, and enjoy a quiet moment. Those routines weren't exciting to anyone else, but to us, they were the foundation of a life well lived. When Max started slowing down in his old age, we were there for him, just as he had been there for us all those years. Saying goodbye to him was one of the hardest things we faced together, but it also reminded us of how much love we'd been lucky enough to experience. Max had brought us closer, taught us patience, and shown us that love doesn't have to be complicated. It just has to be genuine. In the end, I never imagined that my second chance at love would turn out like this. It wasn't flashy or dramatic, but it was steady, joyful, and real. I once thought that after my first marriage ended, I'd never find happiness again. But life surprised me. Sam surprised me. He showed me that it's possible to heal, to grow, and to open yourself to love again, even after heartbreak. Sitting here now, reflecting on all these memories, I'm overwhelmed with gratitude. Gratitude for the man who never gave up on me, for the life we created together, and for the love that made it all possible. I used to think that love was something that would come once and never return, but now I know it can come back stronger, wiser, and more beautiful than ever before. This was the life I never knew I needed, and now that I have it, I'll cherish it every single day.